The film you're about to see was originally part of a PBS science documentary that included a biography of Charles Darwin, mixed in with a number of science lessons branching off of that. I've chosen to edit those side branch tutorials out of this because they're each a bit long and they break the pace and distract from the biography, which I think should stand alone. I mean, there was another biographical film of Darwin's life in 2009 starring Paul Bettany that was just awful. The worst thing that Jennifer Connelly had ever been in. It was billed as a major motion picture, which flopped. Of course it did. They gave it the title of Creation, and it was full of supernatural nonsense and libelous slurs, such that it seemed as if it was written by creationists. And the horrible way that they depicted Thomas Huxley was indefensibly inaccurate and disrespectful. The person most responsible for this biography, however, was the philosopher Daniel Dennett, and I'm happy to say that I had the opportunity to thank him personally for producing this, the best biography of Charles Darwin that has ever been put to film.
No, thank you. No, 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 no.
Esto aquí, venga, póngase un poquito. Aquí, ¿qué quiere?
Me?
¿Quiere un poquito de agua?
Me, in name of Charles Darwin.
Sí,
Yeah?
sí, sí.
Captain Fitzroy.
Sí, sí,
Me
sí.
soy naturalista. Hueso.
Huesos,
Bones,
huesos.
bones.
Sí, huesos, huesos.
Sí, sí, hueso gigante. Gigante.
Sí, sí,
Aquí,
sí,
here.
sí, señor, pase aquí, aquí están los huesos, aquí están.
Fitzroy.
A flood washed down part of a bank of earth.
Mi hijo le pegó con una piedra y le sacó los dientes. Por eso que se caí están afuera.
It was perfect, but the boys knocked out some of the teeth throwing stones at it.
How much?
Hijo,
¿Cuánto
no,
costa?
¿Qué tiene? Un rifle, señor, un rifle.
I wonder why these creatures no longer exist.
Perhaps the ark was too small to allow them entry and they perished in the flood. What is there to laugh at?
Oh, nothing. Nothing.
Do you mock me or the Bible?
Oh, neither.
What sort of clergyman will you be, Mr. Darwin?
Dreadful. Dreadful.
And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth.
Hello.
Which the waters brought forth.
What are you doing here?
After their kind.
Why such beauty when no one can see?
And every winged fowl after his kind.
You can't have been blown here.
And God saw that it was good.
If I were to give a prize for the single best idea anybody ever had, I'd give it to Darwin for the idea of natural selection. Ahead of Newton, ahead of Einstein, because his idea unites the two most disparate features of our universe. The world of purposeless, meaningless matter and motion on the one side, and the world of meaning and purpose and design on the other. He understood that what he was proposing was a truly revolutionary idea.
The Darwinian revolution is about who we are. It's what we're made of. It's what our life means insofar as science can answer that question. So it, in many ways, was the singularly deepest and most discombobulating of all discoveries that science has ever made.
In Darwin's day, the idea of evolution was regarded as highly unorthodox.
because it went against all of natural history in Great Britain. It jeopardized the standing of science. It did jeopardize the standing of a stable society, the Bible, and the church as well. Darwin kept his thoughts to himself for many years and agonized over the problem. If it ever got out that he was doing something that ran slap counter to established science, would ruin his career, ruin his reputation. He was a respectable man with a dangerous theory.
Did you never get your sea legs?
Not once in 5 years. Whenever the sea was up, so was the contents of my stomach.
What a delightful thought. We should be able to squeeze 400 a year out of the governor.
Why? What's he said?
He hasn't said anything, but I've seen it in his eyes. The way he pored over your letters. A very proud father. I told him you were going to publish a journal of your travels. There was a definite flicker of interest.
Publish?
Yes, of course. No country parsonage for you, my boy. You're under my wing now. I'll take charge of your affairs, introduce you to all my clever, witty friends, trade on your celebrity.
Celebrity?
Certainly, everyone wants to meet you. Hear stories of naked Tahitian women and giant sloths or whatever.
Captain Fitzroy, this is my brother, Erasmus.
Mr. Darwin.
Captain. Good God. A man can collect a lot of rubbish in 5 years. It's a wonder you didn't sink the ship, Charles.
Named, I take it, after your grandfather.
Yes, and an uncle. Who drowned himself in the River Derwent.
And are you a free thinker like him?
I'm more of a free drinker, really. And how was the voyage for you, Captain?
That's not for me to say.
No?
40 views of the coast as seen from the sea, 80 plans of harbors, and 82 coastal maps. All for the hydrographic department of the Admiralty.
Bravo. Dinner at sea must have been a jolly affair.
Yeah, from the Galapagos Islands. Puma roasted over an open fire, rather like veal. Armadillo roasted in its shell, a lot like duck. Tortoise, of course. Some of them weigh as much as 500 pounds. One I measured was 96 inches around the waist.
If one of them ever needs a suit of clothes, we must send it to father's tailor.
What else? Llama? Ostrich?
People wonder how it is some animals come to be extinct. Now we have the answer. Eaten by Charlie Darwin. You look as though you're going to the scaffold. Dignity, poise, smile. Remember, all eyes are on you. The judging has begun.
Mr. President, my lords, ladies and gentlemen.
No, no, no. Start with a bang. Men of Athens.
What?
Friends, Romans, countrymen, that sort of thing.
Right. I can't do this.
Yes, you can. You mustn't let the fact that every leading geologist in the land will be there put you off.
Oh, God.
Now, let me hear an interesting bit.
There aren't any. The earthquake.
Oh, stand still. And don't wave your arms around like that. Leave your tie alone. Don't squint. And speak up.
The earthquake ran for 400 miles along the coast, accompanied by the simultaneous eruption of a line of volcanoes. we found fresh mussel beds lying above high tide. The shellfish all dead. The land had risen 8 feet. Mountains must be the product of thousands and thousands of such rises occurring again and again throughout history. Even at the very crest of the Andes, we found marine remains. The fossilized shells of creatures that once crawled about at the bottom of the sea, elevated nearly 14,000 feet above its level. Time, unimaginable tracts of time, is the key.
I rather thought later you might see
Darwin, splendid. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Interesting paper.
Oh, thank you.
Where have you placed your fossil specimens?
Well, I was thinking of the British Museum.
Ah, you're happy to have them languish in some dusty Bloomsbury cellar?
No, not at all.
You'd better let me look over them for you, then.
We'll let you know.
Thank you.
Tom Pozove. Who does he think he is?
He thinks he's Richard Owen, the most brilliant anatomist in
And
Europe.
you're Erasmus Darwin's little brother, Darwin of the Beagle, Darwin. Laud it while you can.
I don't want to laud it.
Liar.
What a brilliant red. Brighter than the actual plumage.
I try to allow for the loss of colour that comes with death.
And can you do this with my Galapagos birds?
Well, I haven't finished identifying them yet, Mr. Darwin. I do know that your wren is a finch, your grosbeak is a finch, even your blackbird is a finch. And they're unique, all new, never described before. There's even evidence that there are separate species for each Galapagos island.
But I didn't label mine by island.
You didn't label them by island.
Why do you want them?
Well, I told you. I failed to label mine by island.
No, I mean, why are the birds I collected suddenly of such interest to you?
Well, the vice-governor of the Galapagos told me he could identify which island a tortoise came from by its markings.
Yes, small variations are possible from island to island, adaptations to climate and so on.
Yes, but the islands all have the same climate. My expert, John Gould, tells me he's found different species of finches. What if these finches were blown to the Galapagos from South America and then began to change, adapt, if you will, become more and more different from their ancestors generation after generation? First into varieties, then into new species. Each new species marooned on its own island.
What are you talking about? What if the finches were blown to the Galapagos? God put those creatures there.
That makes no sense. Why would God put different birds on almost identical islands?
I have no idea. It's not a question that requires an answer. Species were commanded into existence by God. They're perfect forms, and they've been perfect since the day of creation. It's divine law, God's will. I'll see to it that your expert receives my birds.
Thank you.
It's God you should give thanks to.
Come on.
Tonight, and for one night only, ladies and gentlemen, a guided tour of Charles Darwin's boneyard.
For goodness sake, and hurry up.
Yes.
This is a large, extinct llama-like creature. And this is a giant ground sloth, discovered by Mr. Darwin at Punta Alta. Lastly,
The remains of Mr. Darwin's breakfast.
this skull belongs to a huge rodent, a relative of the South American capybara.
If that's the size of a rat, imagine how big the cats must have been.
I have named it Toxodon.
Thank you, Professor Owen, for identifying and describing the extraordinary array of fossils discovered by Mr. Darwin on his voyage to South America.
We allow the planets and the sun to be governed by natural laws. But the smallest insect we wish to be created by a special act of God. Surely the creation of life has to be explained in the same way as geology, using natural, ordinary, everyday causes.
Well, in theory, yes, but in practice, there can be no question about the prime cause. Divine will.
Shouldn't men of science be free to investigate each and every means by which new species come into being?
If by that you mean wild accusations about man's ancestry, the answer is no. To destroy man's unique status is to open the floodgates to anarchy. You might just as well throw muskets to the rabble.
People like Owen think that if there was no Church of England, cucumbers wouldn't grow.
If the globe has undergone such profound changes in its history, geologically, then surely all living creatures must have changed with it to adapt to their new conditions. Well, otherwise, they would have perished.
Some did perish, it seems.
Yes, but the continued existence of life on Earth can only be explained by the assumption that a creature like this was replaced by the modern-day armadillo. There must be a law which causes new species to appear in place of the extinct ones.
That, my boy, is the mystery of mysteries. The person who can solve that riddle will take all of the scientific prizes.
It's the variety of their beaks that's so amazing. They graduate perfectly in size. From this large, parrot-like beak, similar to a hawfinch, perfectly designed for cracking nuts, to this tiny warbler finch, fine as a chaffinch, to feed on insects.
And they're all descended from this one. The common ground finch.
I've started to prepare some colour plates.
I'll put my words to shame. Raz! Raz? Oh, Raz. Wake up.
What time is it?
Lunchtime.
Oh, well then go away and come back at tea time.
The Galapagos Islands are almost identical. The same geology, the same climate.
I'm glad to hear it. Now go away.
So why should different finches inhabit identical islands? Raz? Small changes over ages and ages can throw up mountain ranges and sink continents. If mountains can move and rivers can move, then why can't animals? Finches, tortoises, iguanas. If you trace animals across the surface of the Earth, or dig down and trace them back through time, you come face to face with the same truth.
Which is?
New beings can appear on the Earth. Perhaps everything is part of one ancestral chain. Man, mouse, armadillo. No. It's nonsense to think of animals or man as climbing some ladder. To talk of one animal being higher than another. No. No. I think it's more like a tree. A tree of life. Each new species springs from the parent tree like a shoot. These shoots branch and divide in their turn, and so on and so on. Some branches die out, others keep developing. The trunk. The ancient common ancestor. The stock from which all animals and plants sprang.
Nursed by warm sunbeams in primeval caves, organic life began beneath the waves. Hence, without parent, by spontaneous birth, rise the first steps of animated earth. Grandfather Zoonomia. Would it be too bold to imagine that all warm-blooded animals have arisen from one living filament? It's in our blood, Charles.
Grandfather was vilified for it.
It's in our blood.
Come here, Squib.
There we are. Well, Emma, you're a remarkably good shot.
Hello, Parker.
Miss Wedgwood?
You've met my cousin, Mr. Darwin, before.
Sir?
He's fast, eh?
Fastest in the county.
You breed him yourself?
I mated him with a bitch who was pretty swift.
And how would you breed a fellow like Squib here?
From the runts, I suppose.
How dare you? Squib is quite as nice as any of your rotten dogs.
It's true. It's from the runts and monsters that breeders can produce tailless cats. Or pygmies, like Squib.
I'm not listening to any more of this. Take me back to the house at once and stop saying horrid things.
From wolves to greyhounds. From bulldogs to fellows like Squib. In what? A matter of a few hundred years. I take it you don't find talk of dogs all that interesting.
I can think of more interesting topics of conversation.
Such as?
The novels of Miss Austen.
And what does she have to say about selective breeding?
Nothing, as I recall.
Ah, that's a great pity. Why shouldn't nature produce such differences? These different breeds of dog?
Why should it? What would be the point?
Survival.
In nature, a little poppet like Squib, who was the smallest in her litter, would die. You nearly did die, didn't you?
Yes, that's true, but what about the one with a little more vigor? Or a head start? Because of some peculiarity?
Such as?
A puppy, born with an extra thick coat in a hot climate, would be a monstrosity. But in a cold climate, that would be a good adaptation. That puppy would have an advantage. Got you.
Charles.
Emma?
Let me go.
Not until you've paid the toll.
Which is?
A kiss. For me, rather than the dog.
You can make a big dog or a small dog, but you can't produce feathers on a dog. Nor can you create organs as miraculous as the heart and the eyes. That can only be the work of God.
Hurry up.
It's these blasted ties.
Marry, not marry. Marry children, if it please God.
Give me that, it's private.
Nonsense, I'm your brother. You've no secrets from me.
Yes, I do. I have secrets from everybody. Give it to me.
Thank you, Garman. Constant companion and friend in old age.
Raz?
Object to be loved and played with better than a dog, anyhow. You old romantic.
Well, it's intolerable to think of oneself spending one's life like a neuter bee, working.
And all this is a response to your trip to Cousin Emma's?
Not necessarily.
Well, you don't know anyone else. No, it's true. Your collection won't be complete without that most interesting specimen in the whole series of vertebrate mammals.
And why haven't you married, if it's such an enviable state?
Oh, I'm too lazy to take on anything requiring as much effort as a wife and family. But you're the marrying kind.
Good Lord, what's that? We're being mobbed.
They probably think we're poor law commissioners.
Why would they think that?
It's enough that we're top-hatted toffs in a smart carriage and they're scavenging on rubbish heaps, starving to death. Too many people, not enough food.
Thank God we'll always have food on our plates.
Speaking of which, I think I'll have the turbot in the white sauce.
Cabbage, sprout, cauliflower. All bred from the same ancestor. Cabbage, the leaves. Sprouts, the side buds. Cauliflower, the flower head. All monstrously enlarged.
Sitting opposite me is that strange creature, Homo thesis. Half man, half theory.
A word of advice. In my entire life, I have known only 3 women who were skeptics, and 2 of them were not permitted in polite society. Keep your theory from Emma. It's too late.
I told her. Well, sort of. Not a theory. I don't have a theory. Just thoughts.
How did she take it?
She asked me to read her favorite part of the New Testament. Our Saviour's farewell to his disciples.
You see what I mean?
I am the vine, and ye are the branches. If man abide not in me...
Wilberforce's ears have pricked up.
If man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And men shall gather them, and they shall be cast into the fire, and they are burned.
And how is your soul?
What?
Your fish.
Delicious.
I understand your carriage was stoned on the way here tonight.
Well, we're meeting the threat on the streets head on.
Oh, yes.
We're drilling with the Honourable Artillery Company.
Gentlemen volunteers.
In the event of riots, we will back the police.
Every man, as long as he obeys the law of the land, should be free to pursue his own interest in his own way.
Yes, of course.
Charge what he likes for bread or anything else for that matter. Laissez-faire. Let individuals compete and struggle for their advantages. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Whenever I can't sleep, I reach for Malthus. Or as I prefer to think of him, the Reverend T.R. Morpheus. Still warm. 2 brandies.
Yes, sir.
The natural tendency of mankind is to reproduce. Humans can double their numbers every 25 years.
But they don't. A struggle for resources slows growth, and death and disease, war and famine check the population. I know the argument.
Yes, but don't you see exactly the same struggle takes place throughout nature? I don't know why I didn't make the connection before. Why are we not overrun with insects and frogs? Well, given the rate at which they reproduce, the number of eggs produced by each and every female.
Nature's broom sweeps away the ugly ducklings, the runts.
Yes, but it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Sometimes it's the ugly ducklings that are better adapted to the situations of life. They have longer legs and can run faster. They have bigger beaks that can crack harder nuts and seeds in harsh winters. They survive, have more offspring. Nature selects them to pass on their traits to future generations.
And where do we fit in?
Well, the sun does not revolve around the earth. Nature does not revolve around man. Man must fall into nature's cauldron. He's no deity, no exception. Once you accept that species can pass into one another, the whole fabric totters and falls.
They'll burn you at the stake for this.
Yes.
But now you have a theory. So I said, don't come down the ladder, Mother. I've taken it away.
Good evening.
Towards me, to me pass no, that. The angle needs to be more acute. More acute. Well, let's see if it works. And open. Good God! Raz! What a horrible shot!
Thought I'd surprise you.
Welcome to Down House.
When is the moat to be done?
When the drawbridge is in place.
Were you trying to keep out, Charlie?
Everyone, especially you.
Raz, what a wonderful surprise.
My dear, what a journey.
It's not far.
A nature abhors a journey of 16 miles almost as much as a vacuum. Hello, Annie.
Manny's tea.
And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and off you go. I've thought of a new name for the village.
Oh, yes?
Down in the mouth.
If you speak, I can find you really easily.
Shh. How's your work progressing?
Well, I sent the manuscript off to be copied. I've no idea what I'm going to do with it when it comes back.
Everyone, be quiet.
I'll be glad we're not blind. If you're blind, you can't see the sky or the flowers.
Or anything else for that matter.
I can get in here any time I want.
Well, go on then.
Yes, we feel sorry for moles, don't we?
Moles don't need to be able to see because they live underground. That's why their eyes have got smaller and smaller and smaller. And owls have got bigger and bigger.
I can't play. Everyone's talking about eyes all the time.
Oh, William. You're going to talk to William, hmm? Come on. Go on, Brodie.
William!
She'll soon talk him round. She has the knack.
You look pale.
My stomach rejects food. I'm not strong anymore. I'll never achieve anything in science now.
What rot! You're coming back to London with me.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I'm not letting you stagnate down here while your rivals make all the progress. You must visit your publisher.
You don't understand, Raz. Even when I talk about my theory with you, I feel like I'm confessing a murder. No, I can't publish.
Well, you're coming back to London with me, Charlie, whether you like it or not. If only to remind the opposition you're still alive and kicking.
Take care and make sure you get plenty of rest. Erasmus, he's not to spend all night at the club with you.
No, Mother.
I mean it, or he'll be utterly done for the next day.
Yes, Mother. Don't worry. It'll do him good. Come on. Your sloth awaits you, sir.
What a magnificent piece. Hey, Raz?
My word. Owen's done a remarkable job.
He really is a splendid specimen.
Yes, I thought you'd be pleased. Come through. See what I've been working on. The chimpanzee, being the highest organized four-handed ape, every difference between its anatomy and a human's is instructive.
I've been
For
studying...
example, the irrational ape has dog-like canines, used as weapons of destruction, quite unlike the masters of the animal kingdom.
Yes, though...
And the human foot is of decisive taxonomic value. Our feet are made for walking upon, our hands for grasping. This brute has its hands and feet made to answer nearly the same purpose.
Well, there's a striking similarity between
I'm writing a book on the subject.
My brother is working on a new book, too.
Come here. Let me show you what I mean.
All the same pattern. The bone structure in the hands and feet are all nearly identical.
The blueprint, if you will, that existed first in the Creator's mind. Of that, there can be no doubt.
Utter tosh. The similarity of structure indicates one thing and one thing only. An ancient common ancestor. Real flesh and blood parents.
Why didn't you say so then? You must publish your ideas, if only to establish your priority. What's holding you back?
What is it?
I've completed a sketch of my species theory. I believe it's a considerable step in science. If anything should happen to me,
What do you mean?
if I should die,
Die? Charles, for goodness sake.
please, my love, it's important. If anything should happen to me, I'd like you to see to it that it gets published. £400 should be enough to see it printed and promoted.
Nothing's going to happen to you.
You say here that the human eye may possibly have been acquired by gradual selection of slight, but in each case useful deviations.
Yes?
That's a very great assumption, Charles.
Well, if I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about everything. My entire theory's in ruins.
Can your theory account for the way my eyes and ears and hands and heart combine to reproduce the sounds that Chopin heard in his head? Isn't that a God-given gift?
Well, it's given, but not, I think, by God.
You're a man of science. You don't want to believe anything until it's proved. But some things are beyond proof. It would be a nightmare to me if I thought we didn't belong to each other forever in heaven.
What a horrid smell.
Annie, come and look. When I first started looking, I thought lots of the barnacles had tiny parasites. That's an animal or plant that lives on another animal or plant, gets its food from it, like mistletoe on an apple tree. But they're not. Do you know what they are?
No.
They're little tiny husbands. The females carry little tiny males around with them, clinging to their skirt tails.
Just like you and Mama.
Just like me and Mama. I think it's the most interesting barnacle in the whole wide world. What do you think we should call it?
Barnabas.
Barney, for short.
Barney Ickle.
The tiny parasitic males are rudimentary in a way that I believe can hardly be equaled in the whole of the animal kingdom. They have no mouth or stomach. They are really little more than a tiny head atop an enormous coiled penis.
A bit like me, really. Apart from the bit about the mouth and the stomach.
What's funny?
Nothing! Nothing!
Charles! Charles, are you all right? Charles! Erasmus, take him home.
Why must you work so hard at your horrid little mollusks?
Oh. They're not horrid little mollusks. They're horrid little crustaceans. And I have horrid pigeons and horrid worms, too. They're providing the evidence I need for my theory. Oh. I don't have the right to publish the idea unless I have the evidence.
We must do something about you.
Your stomach condition is nervous in origin, brought on as a result of excessive mental exertion. Cold water is used to stimulate the circulation and draw the blood supply away from the inflamed nerves of the stomach. No sugar, no salt, no bacon, no alcohol, no tobacco. In fact, anything at all that's good is forbidden.
I don't know how or why, but I feel so much better. I look around me, and I don't care two hoots how any of this came to be created. Children, last one back to the house is a rice pudding. Come on, William, you're last. Come on, run, quick, quick, quick.
Come on, Etty.
Annie! Annie, you won!
Come here, my darling. Oh. Oh, Annie, my dear and good child. Come on, darling. Oh.
Papa, Annie's woken me up. Annie's woken me up. Mum, wake up, Annie's crying.
What's the matter, my darling?
What's wrong?
Does your head hurt?
Oh, there's no fever.
Does it hurt here? Oh, it's all right, my darling. You'll be all right.
The doctor's coming. You go and get dressed. I'll stay with her.
What if she's inherited my wretched digestion?
She'll be fine.
Poor dear.
What did he say?
It is her stomach, but he has no idea what's wrong.
Perhaps I should take her to go see Dr. Gully. He cured me.
You'll be back soon, and Papa will look after you. Soon there's going to be a new baby, and I shall need your help. Say goodbye to Etty now.
Just sit up. Now, come on, girls. Take one big gulp of this. Come on, there's a good girl. That's a good girl. Oh, quickly. Come on, there. Oh. Come on, darling, lie back. That's a good girl. She seems so weak. Isn't there anything you can do?
All you can do is pray.
It's my fault. First cousin marriages always produce weak children. It's my fault.
Given the cause of death as bilious fever with a typhoid character. The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away.
Please, don't.
God grant us strength.
Please, Charles. Please. Come along, children.
What Annie's death did to Darwin's faith was mainly to destroy Christianity. He could no longer see that a good God ordered and superintended all of the events of human life and of the universe. And he believed that she did not deserve punishment by God or by nature either. She had simply fallen victim to the struggle for existence, the amoral, purposeless struggle that ran according to laws of nature.
Darwin certainly didn't think that evolution spoke either for or against the unprovable existence of God or a form of God. He didn't desire to cast disparagement on anyone's religious convictions. He regarded it as a private matter which he was never able to hold with conventional zeal following the tragedy of his life.
In Darwin's day, science and politics and religion were all of a piece when you talked about the origins of life and of species. Astronomy could go along pretty well because it testified to the wisdom and power of God in holding the planets in place. But the idea of evolution or transmutation, people said with a snarl, put in jeopardy the whole established social order.
What is in this big book of his, do you think?
Transmutation.
Another Darwin blotting God out of creation.
We want to support your scheme for a museum of natural history.
Some people see it as rash, extravagant, grandiose.
If it's grand, it's because it should house as wide a display as possible.
But we need your help in return. It is up to you, as the country's leading anatomist and paleontologist, to prove man's superiority.
We won't have street ruffians tout man's monkey origin in Her Majesty's museums.
You can rely on me, Bishop Wilberforce. The human brain differs markedly from that of all other mammals. In man, not only do the cerebral hemispheres overlap the olfactory lobes and the cerebellum, but they extend in advance of the one and farther back than the other. Their posterior development is so marked that I have assigned to that part the character of a third lobe, peculiar to Homo sapiens, the hippocampus minor. Peculiar mental faculties are associated with this highest form of brain, and I am led, therefore, to regard man not merely as representative of a distinct subclass, but as the inhabitant of one reserved for him alone. The human brain is in itself proof of man's moral and religious faculties. Such are the powers with which we, and we alone, are gifted.
I wonder what a chimpanzee would have to say about that, Mr. Huxley.
I think it's priceless. His theory is a house built on sand, a Corinthian portico on cow dung.
Yes. Damn all the sanctimonious meddlers who try and stifle troublesome research.
The ultimate court of appeal of science is observation and experiment, not authority, wealth, and rank.
Your disagreements with Owen should not be personal.
I can't help it. He's so pompous. The prospect of his slipping on one of his pickled brains is just too good to be true.
Bad feeling will only cloud the issue and lead to bad science.
Tell that to Owen.
Huxley's saying in public what you think in private. Charles, you've stalled long enough. You've collected enough barnacles to sink a ship of the line. Meanwhile, you're being upstaged.
That's not important. My book is the thing. Once my work is done...
Will it deal with man?
It's too surrounded by prejudices.
Well, whether it does or it doesn't, you must publish.
Oh, my God. Raz.
What is it? Who is Alfred Wallace?
My dear Huxley. It's like a précis of my theory. All my originality, whatever it's worth, has been smashed. Had Wallace a copy of the essay I'd written in '44 in front of him, he couldn't have written a better short abstract. Variations being pushed further and further from parent species by a struggle for existence, overpopulation. It's all there.
Is your book ready for publication?
Publish? How can I publish honorably? I'd sooner burn the blasted thing than have him or anyone else think that I behaved in a paltry spirit.
Then publish a joint paper. Excerpts from your work along with Wallace's essay. And then you must prepare a manuscript for publication. Who knows, it may all be for the best. At last, we'll finally get to learn your views in full.
This book will be the death of me. What a miserable wretch I'd be without you near me.
When on board HMS Beagle as naturalist, I was much struck with certain facts in the distribution of the organic beings inhabiting South America, and in the geological relations of the present to the past inhabitants of that continent. These facts seem to throw some light on the origin of species. that mystery of mysteries.
The Times is very positive.
I should think so. It's Huxley. The Athenaeum wants me tried in the Divinity Hall, the college, the lecture room and museum. My book is no more unorthodox than the subject demands. I don't discuss the origins of man. I don't discuss Genesis.
Charles, don't be so naive. It's clear you think man is no exception. Whether you're right or wrong, you must finish what you started.
Darwin! Darwin!
Ah, Owen!
How dare you? How dare you paint me as reactionary?
Oh, I didn't paint you as reactionary.
How dare you put my name with the defenders of immutability? Is my concept of the ordained continuous becoming of living things to be ignored?
But what does it mean? I don't know what it means. It means animals appearing out of thin air.
Not at all. Oh, you believe that selection is the only possible creative law. Pure chance, the roll of the dice. In fact, new species are created by natural birth according to God's law.
Well, I don't believe...
I know who's put you up to this. Huxley.
Please, Richard.
Well, I will have absolutely no truck with the Huxleys of this world, and nor should you. It is an abuse of science. You should be ashamed of yourself. Your book is a snub to the clergy and an insult to humanity. It's nihilism. Only a man devoid of a soul could find solace in a bestial ancestry.
It's as respectable to be modified monkey as modified dirt.
Huxley, please.
No, I think it's splendid. Old ladies of both sexes say it's a dangerous book. Splendid. Don't worry. I'll deal with him. I'm sharpening my beak and claws in readiness.
Any contribution to our natural history from the pen of Mr. Charles Darwin is certain to command attention. His latest publication, The Origin of Species, is manifestly regarded by him as the opus upon which his future fame is to rest. Mr. Darwin claims that every living thing, every fish, plant, fungus, fly, elephant, man, turnip, are all equally the lineal descendants of the same common ancestor. Such a notion is absolutely incompatible with the Word of God. Man was made in the image of God and redeemed by the eternal Son. Natural selection is an ingenious theory for denying the working and therefore the existence of the Creator. In fact, the human brain differs markedly from that of all other mammals.
Unfortunately, my Lord Bishop, you have been misinformed. If we are unprejudiced judges, we have to admit that there is as little interval as animals between the gorilla and the man as there is between the gorilla and the baboon. It is speech alone and not some spiritual gift that makes man a reasonable being. That is the source of our unlimited intellectual progress, but that does not disguise the fact that to the very root and foundation of his nature, man is one with the rest of the organic world. No one who has ever whoever dissected the brain of an ape agrees with Professor Owen. His findings are wrong. I can only assume that Professor Owen's brain must have shrunk in the pickling jar.
I meant, of course, the chimpanzee's brains he had examined. Oh, Lord. It was then that God delivered Wilberforce into my hands.
I wonder, Mr. Huxley, is it through your grandfather or your grandmother that you claim descent from an ape?
I stood up, very quiet, very grave, and said my say with perfect good temper.
If the question is put to me, would I rather have a miserable ape for a grandfather, or a man, highly intelligent, possessed of great means of influence, and yet who employed these faculties and that influence for the mere purpose of introducing ridicule into a grave scientific discussion? I unhesitatingly affirm my preference for the ape.
You didn't. I said that, or something very like that.
How dare you attack a live bishop in public? Have you no respect for the purple waistcoat?
Lady Brewster fainted, had to be carried from the room. And then Admiral Fitzroy got to his feet.
Fitzroy?
Believe in this! Believe in God, not man!
Oh, my.
We'll probably never know the truth.
Well, the truth, Charles, is in your book. It's the most interesting thing I've ever read. The reasoning is so entirely satisfactory to me that if the facts don't fit, then, well, so much the worse for the facts. The sheikhs. Time I was naturally selected.
For more than a century, people have often thought that the conclusion to draw from Darwin's vision is that Homo sapiens, our species, that we're just animals too, we're just mammals, that there is nothing morally special about us. I myself don't think this follows at all from Darwin's vision, but it is certainly the received view in many quarters.
Ever since The Origin of Species was published, strict believers in biblical creation have attacked Darwin's vision. Their concerns aren't only about the science of evolution. At stake, many believe, is nothing less than the human soul.